Conquest and Mark show off in a deadly 1v1. But first, a brief recap of Episode 7. We saw Mark and other heroes fight fearlessly against the Invincible variants. Rex sacrificed his life to save his teammates. Eve got hospitalized, and Mark went to face off against Angstrom. But Mark faces troubles trying to get Angstrom, and just as he is about to kill Angstrom, Angstrom pulls a final trick and manages to escape, only losing his arm. After the mass destruction, Mark goes to help out, but is interrupted by a towering Viltrumite known as Conquest. The two engage in the most destructive battle the Earth has ever seen, obliterating buildings just by landing punches and hits. Conquest headbutts Invincible and chokeslams him into the ground. Conquest stands up and tells Invincible that right about now, Anissa will be telling Invincible how the Viltrum Empire would turn Earth into a utopia and how Invincible would be stupid to resist. But Conquest is actually happy, because he wants Mark to resist, as he is not here to help the Viltrum Empire, but is on Earth just because he enjoys fighting. He says there is no greater pleasure than feeling the warmth of his fists drenched in blood.
Warmth of my fists drenched in blood.
But as Conquest is talking, Mark furiously hits him, charging Conquest straight through buildings. But when Conquest bursts from the rubble, he grabs Mark by the neck and tells him he wants more. Mark hits him with some serious combos, hitting Conquest with enough force to knock him into space. Conquest uses his blood bubble to mock their battle, and the two charges for a second fight. With Conquest knocking Mark, Debbie sees the news and Oliver suggests to help since it's not far away. Debbie tries to call him to stop, but instead encourages him and tells him to keep moving. Debbie can't hold it together, knowing her boys are getting beat up bad. Invincible is brutally injured, but this doesn't concern Conquest as he is relentlessly bashing Mark. Oliver tries to keep up with them, but he barely manages with Conquest speed. Mark is slammed into a truck, and he has no other option than to beg Conquest to please stop.
Stop!
He begs him to listen, but Conquest yells in anger. As he slams Invincible into the ground, he says that he can't give Mark a chance to surrender, since he is having the time of his life. He keeps taunting Mark, but Oliver arrives just in time to land a hit on Conquest. He charges at Conquest, but obviously he is not even a match. Luckily, Mark quickly hits Conquest to help Oliver. Mark yells at Oliver to get out of there, so Conquest won't have the joy of killing him. Conquest seems to be full of energy, and he starts charging at them. Mark saves his brother, and he has to keep Conquest engaged. Invincible looses and began to savagely hit Conquest. He doesn't hold back and keep hitting Conquest with everything he has. Mark seems like he's winning, but Conquest has been toying with him. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, Cecil is panicking because Conquest is so powerful that even Earth's strongest hero can't hold his own. But unfortunately for everyone, Sinclair needs more time to turn the dead Invincible variants into reanimin. He says they are too strong and Cecil is frustrated. At the hospital, Eve regains consciousness from her coma and asks where is Mark. She sees the news, and although she has no shape whatsoever to fight, she puts on her outfit and goes to save her boyfriend from death. Invincible is still in the middle of a serious beatdown. Conquest is a chat mid-fight, and he tells Mark that he has met his father before. He says Nolan was more promising than Mark, but now he's dead. Conquest is about to finally kill him, but Oliver comes in clutch. He tries to motivate Mark, saying they have a chance since Conquest is old, but Conquest disagrees with that.
I'm old, not weak.
He easily gets rid of Mark and gives Oliver the hardest punch he has ever taken. The bloody monster grabs Oliver and is about to rip him in half. Mark hears his brother cries and immediately saves him. Cecil and some men teleport in order to save Oliver. He witnesses the chaos unfold. He then gets informed that Eve is awake. Meanwhile, Conquest stops mid-flight and mocks Mark, but Mark still manages to retaliate. Afterwards, Cecil talks with Eve and he tells her Conquest is stronger than even Nolan. She refuses to back down, saying she's powerful enough to at least help Mark. Conquest flies Mark across the ocean into a beach and delivers the Omni-Man treatment to him again. He brutally drags Mark before Mark lands an opening punch. Eve backs the punch up, but Mark is now very worried since Eve is around.
Please.
Conquest quickly rushes towards her, but Mark arrived just in time to protect her. Conquest breaks Mark's leg, and Invincible crashes into the ground. Conquest taunts Eve, so she powers up and prepares for a serious battle. Conquest is about to punch Eve, but he can't move since Adam Eve increased the density of the air. She wastes no time and began landing hits with different projectiles and battle weapon. Mark is badly injured and unable to help. Conquest begins fighting back, and Eve slowly runs out of energy. She keeps fighting, but Conquest ultimately gets to her and stabs her guts open. So Mark, seeing this, immediately goes to get Eve. Unfortunately, she loses so much blood and dies in Mark's arms. This emotional moment causes him to go absolutely berserk, breaking his fist against Conquest. Fighting until the very end, Mark refuses to give up and does whatever he can to fight. But mid-fight through the struggle, Eve begins to glow and floats in the air. This distracts Mark, leaving an opening for Conquest to use his emotions against him once more. Conquest decides to start monologuing to Mark. He tells him how lonely it is in the Viltrum Empire. Everyone always fears him and are scared to approach him. And each time he conquers a planet, He just gives him more reason to be afraid. He is the epitome of suffering from success. He tells Mark he is happy he could lash out on Earth, because all his missions need him to be not kill certain people or planets. Conquest reveals he has no name, and the name Conquest is just his purpose. But while this is ongoing, Conquest doesn't realize that Eve is very much conscious, and she revives herself with godlike powers, burning Conquest with a powerful blast. Conquest promises he kills Eve, and Mark defends her. He fights back despite with a broken arm, but this powerhouse of a beast casually breaks Mark's fists like it's nothing. Enraged, angered, and tired from all the bullshit, Mark has no other option than to continue fighting Conquest. So he headbutts. Marks keep doing this over and over again, asking Conquest if this is what he wanted. He keeps banging, in a very brutal scene, and destroys Conquest's entire skull into pieces. He crawls towards Eve, and they both reunite, before falling unconscious. Cecil and his men arrives, and they help treat the injured heroes. After 3 long days, Eve is in the hospital when Mark regains consciousness. He is traumatized that Eve almost died and asked Eve how she is still alive. She tried to explain but tells Mark that it is complicated, since when she was still in her mother's womb she was given powers, but unfortunately they put in mental blocks to limit what she could do, and that is the only reason she can't change sentient matter. But when something really traumatic happens, it overrides those blocks, and she can use her powers without any limitations. She confirms that it had definitely happened before. Meanwhile, Cecil tells Sinclair to hurry up with his reanimate versions of the evil Invincible, since more Viltrumites could be on the way as Conquest is gone. Debbie and Paul show up to meet Mark and Eve, and are relieved to see that both of them are doing well. Debbie apologizes for the life she gave Mark, but clearly she can't control all this, and she didn't want Mark to be fighting for his life almost every day. She says she regrets every time they asked if Mark got his powers, but Mark sees his mom is sad, so he comforts her. Cecil checks in on Mark, and immediately Mark asks him about Conquest. Cecil takes Mark to show him Conquest's lifeless body. Mark tells Cecil to burn it and leaves. Some while later, a funeral is held for Rex and other fallen heroes. Adam, Eve, Invincible, the GDA, and even Shrinking Ray are in attendance to honor Rex's memory. Rudy takes up Rex's name so as to ensure his friends is never forgotten. Mark and Eve discuss about Rex, and Eve feels bad for not spending much time with Rex. Mark is still happy about the fact that Eve is alive. She gives him a hug, and late at night they head straight to Mark's room. The two get intimate with each other, and the scene shifts to the underground sewers in Chicago. We see the Sequids, a group of Martian parasites who have now taken over new hosts, probably trying to conquer Earth again. In space, an alien ship finds a frozen battle beast from his previous Viltrumite battle. They help him onto the ship, and Battle Beast warms up, screaming more, after the technicians repair Angstrom's hand. They reveal that they want a new world, and will use powers for much, much higher purpose. Meanwhile, under the Earth, Cecil doesn't burn Conquest, but instead traps him in a mega prison, capable of exploding if Conquest moves even a muscle. He expects Conquest to regain consciousness and tell him all about the Viltrum Empire. Mark and Oliver have a talk with one another, and Mark reveals he is tired of holding back, and he won't hesitate killing whoever comes to threaten his family or his planet. In the post-credit scene, a demon-like creature known as a Damien Darkblood, he is planning his return to the mortal realm. He wakes his master up and says he's found the perfect evil vessel. The episode then comes to an end. If you enjoyed this peek recap, kindly subscribe for more daily dose of it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.